Okay, first ever full-on sketchbook tour. I've done a few just like really quick flip-through videos on Instagram, so this will just show it more in depth. A lot of the images in here I've actually posted on Instagram because they were like quite finished and nice sketches and stuff. This is a Stillman and Byrne 8x10 sketchbook alpha series. The only reason I sort of disliked this is, one, it wasn't really that easy to get. Like, even on Amazon Canada, it's the sizes you want are a bit limiting, and then there's often it's just very pricey. I don't know, I don't think I looked up where these are from or what, like, any details on it, but it's a bit tough to get. But paper overall is really nice. But yeah, this one in particular, got it in Montreal art store I picked up while visiting there, but in Ontario I don't think I've ever seen them in any art stores being sold. But yeah, I think there's like a Strathmore soft cover series that's really easy to pick up on Amazon. I don't think I've seen them in stores either. So also I was a bit precious with it because it was a bit hard to get and because it was more pricier, so that's another factor. It took me much longer to fill up than all my previous other sketchbooks. For the most part, well, the first one on this whole journey I finished took a really long time because there was a lot of pages, but this one has about 56, and usually when it's typically about 50 pages, I finished them a lot sooner. So this one was, I think, several months, just because I mostly did more finished stuff in here, while like any doodles or sketches, just pencil practice, not so much, just because it was mixed media paper. So I always feel like I'm obligated to use more mixed media than, or like watercolor or wet media, essentially, and yeah, more, I guess, almost more complete sketches than just quick doodles. So yeah, I started in October, and so the theme was definitely Halloween witches. This was planning done for my final witch watercolor and ink painting I did. I'll just have that show up on the screen. And so I did a lot of experimenting with how the outfit would look and the coloring, how I would do it, and yeah, little elements here and there. Even did some experimenting with, I think it's just regular gouache painted. Yeah, so here I was still kind of in stages deciding how I was going to paint the painting and, you know, which medium and stuff like that. Typical. And just, yeah, a bit of random details. And so I'm not like typically caring too much of making a full-on art book and, you know, having full spreads or anything like that match too much. It's just, you know, drawing whatever still, even though I did care more about just focusing more on like watercolors and stuff like that in this book. So yeah, there's like a full just a red pencil drawing, kind of Victorian themes there, and sometimes I'll use reference, and sometimes I'll just be completely from my imagination. So I remember that one being completely from my imagination. This one was like reference, and I just like added a witch theme to her. Yeah, and then this was again more witch stuff, so continuing on that. I really enjoyed how this turned out. I believe this also was again just referencing a pose and then turning it witch themed. And yeah, I've never really drawn cats, so I did a little bit of practicing, and I think that one was looking at a picture of a bird from like Dominican. I forget if that's supposed to be a type of crane or something, but like I remember when I saw it in Dominican, it was very funny because I'd never seen a bird with a neck so thin. It was hilariously pencil thin, and just the way it moved and walked was really hilarious. I don't know if I made a video of that, but yeah. Okay, so more witch themed, but this time I'm practicing more with gouache paints. Just really quick gouache paintings. And then back to watercolor and ink, and then just completely all ink gouaches and colors. Sometimes I do a lot of, I guess in these last traditional ones, just because it had been a while since I did full-on traditional paintings, I did a lot of prep work for a lot of the ones that I did, just experimenting and trying out, just because, I don't know, a pressure of using very expensive, very nice watercolor paper. It was this very, very thick Winsor & Newton. I'm pretty sure it was over 300 gram GSM. It might have been even 400 because it was very thick. It was thicker than the 300 GSM that I had. So, and it was like the last bits I had of it from university days. It was crazy that I did have like so many sheets just left over. I don't know if I maybe bought it after university, but yeah. So yeah, and then some practicing with ink and trying to be more bold with the shadows, just because I kind of chicken out a lot of times when with doing a lot of really bold black ink work kind of thing. So it was just attempting to practice that. And the guy in the reference photo wasn't actually holding a pumpkin with a cat in it. I just kind of added that because it was so October winter theme. So everything had to be themed for October, I guess, in my sketchbook at the time. This was just a fun... This one was actually me experimenting, doing something different than I normally do. I usually stuck with doing black line art, like using ink, and then coloring in the characters a lot of the time. So this one I just first did pencil crayon and then coloring in with, I believe it was alcohol markers, and just using each colored pencil crayon, yeah. And then my Daniel Smith palette arrived. It was just like 12 set 10, actually really close by, so yeah, that. It came with 12 colors, and I already had a bunch, so that's kind of why I only got like a 12 set. I rearranged a lot of the stuff, but yeah. And I did a little bit of just testing out the colors. I don't do full-on color swatching or really neat ones. The only, like, even the ones that go into my palettes, which I find this actually useful. Like, I learned this from seasoned artists to put it in so you know which colors are, because oftentimes the colors are very dark. And I have had made mistakes in mixing up some of these just because they are anyway similar in tone, and sometimes I'm using all of them, and then yeah, it's just sometimes nicer to have them, especially when I get brand new ones, then I've mixed them up. So very useful. Who knew seasoned artists had great tips, right? always get listen to a lot of advice and take it in, I guess. It can be very helpful. Yeah, and then of course I had to test out the paints by drawing Spider-Man. This was based on the video game. I took a screenshot from the video game and then I drew that. Sometimes I get too excited to actually do the painting process and the inking process that I just don't really notice some of the faults until after the fact. So I think there was like lines that I had initially drawn first, a completely wrong angle, and I actually fully inked them and then decided to try and adjust it after the fact. I mean, it's a sketch, so it's all right. It's not meant to be like a perfect finished thing, so you know, the sketchbook is meant to have flaws, right? I think even his leg might be a bit short, but yeah, I still really enjoyed this despite all its flaws. I think I really like the way it turned out. This one was just another experiment of just doing a lot of, like, you know, all my favorite colors, I guess, for watercolor. Which just like making those poppy yellows and purples and magentas for the light parts, and then blues and cooler purples for the shadowy parts. I always really enjoy doing that kind of washes for, like, especially like just ink work or anything like comic book style. That kind of like coloring I just really love. Just not focusing on something like too realistic or anything, just more fantastical, I guess, in that direction. And then I started working with a liner brush and acrylic ink, and I started realizing I really like the way that's turning out, just because it's like there's diversity in line weight, and just the way it turns out, it's got a lot more character to it than just using a felt tip pen or anything where there's, you know, you have to adjust yourself and kind of manually switch between like different sizes of felt tip pens. So yeah, this page was me, I guess, starting out with that, so I continued on with that more and actually adding color and experimenting. Another example of me just being so excited to start doing the line art and practicing with a brush pen as opposed to really paying attention to details, I guess. So just like some rough and messy anatomy all there. At this point, I think my computer, my new one, there was something wrong with one of the software that was installed, so I had to do a complete new Windows clean install just to fix the problem. And for some reason, I think it was even Edge or whatever, the base one that comes with being able to access the internet, was corrupted. So I did not have an internet browser. So I needed to figure out how to put internet onto my computer without having an internet browser to download from. So that was fun. I was searching it on my phone. I think this was actually a reference photo, and then I thought it was like perfect for the situation, and then I kind of drew an overdramatic scene of illustration. I was googling how to fix all the issues I was having. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun to illustrate. The situation was resolved pretty quickly, but it was pretty entertaining. This is an example of being cursed, of like having a great sketch, but the final piece being really, really crap. So I think I posted on Instagram the final anyway, just because it was mostly experimenting. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it was. It just turned out to be a total mess. So a sketch I'm more happy with is my Nightwing sketch. This, I got really inspired by the Gotham Knights game that had come out, and then I decided to take a screenshot and kind of sketch him out. So that's a suit from the game. Yeah, I actually did enjoy this game. I know it has a lot of flaws and it's not really the most perfect and fun, but I still had quite a bit of fun and actually finished it and everything. Also, I think a lot of complaints on for the gamer reviews for this was the world was empty or ugly or something. I don't know, there was a lot of descriptions for it, but I thought it was pretty inspiring from an artist perspective, and also it kept reminding me of Montreal, and I think the game devs are from Montreal, so or stationed there or whatever, and yeah, I actually really love the city and the way it was created, so yeah. Don't care. I love it, so whatever. And I actually will warn you, there's a lot of fan art of Gotham Knights in this in this sketchbook, because I really did kind of enjoy the game, at least like for the most part. Yeah, as long as I had fun. So I then drew Batgirl, and I'm really happy with the way this turned out. This is one of my favorite sketches in this entire sketchbook, just because I'm really happy with the way the line art turned out and all the colors and everything, even though it gave me a lot of grief because I just kept smudging everything from watercolor to line art constantly for this one. So it was a pain to do, but it was worth it. Again, I think this was like mixed between screenshots of the character and also some references of Batgirl and other images or something. So, this page is typically what I most enjoy drawing, just a random comic page. Usually when I draw these, it's just a quick short story that came to mind. My favorite thing to do for these random one-off pages is also try to create like literal visuals that transfer from one panel to the other. It's something I always enjoyed seeing in other comics that I would read, and so I really love to always try and do that in mine. This page in particular I'm really happy with, since it's a combination of achievements for myself compared to past me. I sucked at drawing men. I was horrible with limited palettes and also bad with contrast, so this all in all felt like something I was proud of, just being able to whip up so quickly without any reference. Although hands, oof, yeah, so just this limited palette also I was really happy with. The whole like purple yellow thing and just mostly adding purples is, yeah, something as of late I do a lot of, and I really love that combination. So this is a bunch of roughs and thumbnails and kind of like ideation process for the Gotham Knights painting I did. In the game there's like an email section where there was something about like Nightwing accusing everybody of like stealing his pizza, including, and then everybody was kind of trolling him in the email, so I just kind of pictured everybody was just secretly eating his pizza, and that's kind of where that idea came along. I kind of really had fun drawing the fridge from like two different perspectives, and this is kind of typically what I do before I start a final painting I do for like on a nice paper. And sometimes I'll even do like multiple thumbnails, just like kind of just solidifying what poses and combinations. It's sometimes probably not very clear to others, but it's just for myself mostly. I make a lot neater ones if it is for a client or something like that. Yeah, I had at one point the idea of including a like you know, kind of angel dead Batman also eating his pizza, and, you know, with like a fat belly because he doesn't care anymore. He's dead, so he doesn't have to worry about like being super fit. But that did not end up making it, unfortunately, in the piece. And maybe I could have done like some part of there, but oh well. And more comic page spread thing again. This was basically, I was craving candy at some point or something, and so this is why this happened. Also, I wanted to really try out the combination of using black ink washes first and then actually painting watercolor washes on top, but because this acrylic ink in particular is a warm black, I was really not happy with the results. I just didn't really like it in combination with like a cooler purples and all the colors. I did it because I guess, I don't even know if I used warm tones I'd be satisfied with it, because I think I've tried this method a couple of times, but there's something about it that stands out. Where I think I've seen people do like certain washes and it looks nice, but it's probably just maybe the tone, like just the fact that it's not really quite a proper neutral black. And yeah, so that is for this page, and that's for that one. And just more sketching and doodling here, practicing some stuff. I think I just got a bamboo brush, but it was cheaper, so it wasn't too great. And then I did some cityscape drawing. I think this was actually a photo of Chicago, I believe, but I just really like the colors, and yeah, I just tried that out to see how it would look with like quick washes. And then more liner brush work, just practicing more with that quite a bit. And I think the whole AI debacle started erupting just then, so hence that. And yeah, I decided to draw hands because I didn't know what else to draw. I actually really hate drawing hands, and I'm not the greatest at it, but I never practiced drawing hands because I also hate drawing hands, so it's this never-ending circle. I'm not that horrible anymore at it, but I'm still pretty bad at it comparatively, especially to most artists. So I think there's some kind of like art memes that go around with drawing hands bad, so I guess I might not be the only one. So yeah, more Gotham Knights, but this time holiday themed stuff. I was sketching and trying to come up with an idea for a Christmas card for my best friend, because she also played and likes the game. And I was also going to do another fan art where it's like Batgirl and Nightwing with like mistletoe underneath, but I didn't end up doing that. I think I was like burnt out during the holidays, didn't feel like doing too many full paintings. More liner brush work. I was practicing hair actually, and like, you know, more flowy hair, just because I think that's another thing that I was like bad at. As an artist, you're always improving, you just have to keep practicing, right? I think I don't normally do this where I glue something on top to cover it up, but sometimes I just absolutely hate something too much, and plus I think I just had this idea in my mind, maybe I'll like display this whole sketchbook, because overall it was turning out to have a lot more finished pieces, so I think that's part of the reason why I did that. Otherwise, my old sketchbooks have a lot of like really cursed, awful drawings that are just anatomically horrifying comparatively to other sketches on the page, so yeah, normally I wouldn't care, but I guess I had one of those like moments of, what if somebody sees it, right? Silly panic ones, but I actually do like, I've seen people do this, but I do actually enjoy the way this kind of looks though visually. It's kind of fun because it's like drawing on top of stickies like this. It is kind of like a visual appeal. So there's at least it's a good reason, right? So yeah. And then like a necessary holiday Spider-Man, because I think I've been doing holiday themed Spider-Man drawing for the past 2 years. So I guess I'm like making that a tradition now for myself. Except when I planned this out, I didn't plan out the color of the bag properly, so I changed the color like 4 times with watercolor, and it turned so muddy and it looked so gross, so I just had to go over with acrylic wash, so it's like, I know it's opaque compared to everything else, and it's also a weird choice for even acrylic wash, so yeah. But overall, not too bad. I feel like it's a lot better than my first attempt at Spider-Man, because, you know, him in weird poses and foreshortening and everything. I know foreshortening is one of the toughest things to draw, so yeah. So this entire page was actually inspired by a book that I had got from Amazon, How to Draw Noir Comics by Sean Martin Brow. Yeah, there we go. So I really recommend it for anybody who really is into the idea of drawing comics or black and white ink. I really actually enjoy drawing kind of darker stuff like mafia, you know, committing crimes and stuff like that. Yeah, that's something just I find kind of really entertaining. Not like too gory or anything crazy, but yeah, just kind of going all over the place with the themes I draw. So moving on to this page was just more experimenting with black and with ink, and also just washes, coloring it in. And here I even started experimenting with the background actually being inked in a different colored ink versus the foreground still being black. This is just like a very rough thing, but I kind of continue it on like further into my sketchbook. Here is just another Gotham Knights fan art, just like a quick one. I didn't really intend to go very far with it. I thought I was going to, and I kind of started doing it, and then I kind of gave up. For this one here, it's actually typical world building kind of thing that I like to do. So I have this whole sort of comic story idea thing that I was kind of coming up with, and I really enjoy, while I'm world building, also creating like an actual map for my ideas. So yeah, there's a lot of thoughts, sort of roughs and sketches and all kinds of stuff I had come up with for this whole comic thing. So who knows, maybe it will actually come to fruition, but we'll see if that ever happens. So yeah, back to actually focusing on the whole colored ink for backgrounds and then just black ink for foregrounds. That's basically what this whole page was a commitment to, and I really loved the way this one turned out. Just the washes and the color and everything. Again, sticking with the purple and yellow obsession. Like, blue is my favorite color, but honestly, I just really love it with the combination of all this with, like, yeah, the gradation and using watercolor and inks, yeah. Really enjoy that. This is just a straight up riff-off of my Valentine sketch I did a couple of years back, I think. I just really wanted to quickly do another composition, another attempt at sort of this thing, but like I couldn't really, for some reason, think of anything, so I just did this kind of thing, just because I kind of recalled it. I probably did this kind of composition with the street and the characters in this position a bunch of times anyway, so yeah, just straight up ripping myself up in composition a million times. It's great. So this here in particular is a thumbnail of a painting I did. It's like a thumbnail sketch of a photograph from Dominican, because my mom really wanted a painting of that photo, so I first did the thumbnail and then I did a final piece of that on a really nice bow hung watercolor paper. It turned out really great. I really loved it. It was a painting I did completely without any line art too, so I was also kind of proud of myself of that, because I have been working to, in some cases for watercolor, just to do paintings not always relying on line art. I do really enjoy using line art, but sometimes I really just want to be good at it even without it. Yeah. So this is, I think there have been previous pages, but yeah, just more practicing drawing lines. I find it really therapeutic and fun to fill pages like this when I have no idea what to draw, but I still kind of want to draw, but don't really care to focus on any specific subject or anything important, just mindlessly sketching. And that is for that one. Yeah, so I kind of continued the palm leaf theme everywhere, and also I guess the Smoky Man theme from like before, and just also keeping into a line art flat coloring type of deal. I really ended up enjoying how this one turned out. For this, I won't dwell on too much. It was first time filming myself drawing from start to finish, and just a weird blah subject with no direction whatsoever, and also like no proper lighting direction, I think. So yeah, that's what that mess was. For the next one, on the other hand, I had this intent of wanting to draw a character in the forest with the flashlight just washing everything out in its path. So this is all done with ink washes alone, and I am fairly happy with the way it turned out, just like all the ink work and the line weights and stuff. Yep, I thought that was pretty cool, even for a dark subject again. These are just some little thumbnails, again, practicing washes. For this sketchbook, I actually really like how watercolor behaves on the paper. It's supposed to be only mixed media paper, but it still works well enough to produce like really nice effects and granulation. I went with drawing mostly random Gothic buildings and even a screenshot again from Gothic Nights. I wonder what I was inspired by for this page. I wonder, yeah. The next one is something very different from what I normally draw, from color palettes to the whole character. Yeah, I don't really usually do this whole like orangey reds type of palette, or like these kind of, I guess more like demon characters, you know, Devil May Cry almost. I can't really think of anything else that like particularly inspired me. Maybe like Doom or something has like the skull elements. I know I've watched a little bit of gameplay of it, so yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it was kind of like a fun departure from what I normally do. And again, just like some random sketch I just wanted to keep if I ever felt like actually completing that idea, whatever it was. I feel like the running theme for the better part of my sketchbook is complete sketches on the right side and then more messy like ideation roughs on the left side. I think this was actually due to the fact that the sketchbook was getting predominantly more difficult to work on the already worked on pages, because as I mentioned before, it starts bulking up. And these were originally flat because there weren't, you know, there wasn't anything in it. This was just me mixing black with blue ink, trying to, you know, work that out if I could make like a cool ink myself, but like it was alright, it wasn't anything. This one, on the other hand, I'm really like happy with the result because I was just going for a very cool palette and trying to do like a very cool night sort of vibes image overall. And I'm really happy with it. I'm also happy that I managed to save it because originally the background was very blotchy, and then I just used white gouache to fix that and turned like gray clouds, because I think there was like some watercolor in this, so that's why it actually turned out like more gray than actually white clouds. My Valkyrie drawing. So I got in my head the idea to draw a character with wings and maybe a Valkyrie in my own style and interpretation, but be kind of more like an Amazon from DC. So I suppose a large mix of God of War Valkyries, Marvel Valkyries, and DC Amazons was the inspiration, I guess, for this character. It was fun. Just the anatomy got really squished by like the end of the sketchbook here. I love the final digital line art I created, but I think I like the way I drew her face here the most, although I do like the final non-line art painting I did. I just hate the way the sky turned out for that one. I kind of almost like the messiness of here a little bit more just because of the colors as opposed to that one. So I guess there's like something to like for each portion. This one was just a little bit like an attempt to practice just a watercolor rough sketch thing. Okay. So this is typically what some of my old sketchbooks look like, where it's just very sketchy and not really any fancy finished drawings. It would just be strictly mostly for sketches and ideation and final sketches. So in this case, it's actually these two of Nightwing and Batman are some final sketches I used, where I took a photo of this and then turned it into a finished digital line art for each of these. And then the process further for that would just be printing it out and then tracing it via Lightbox onto a nicer paper. I know that process always kind of sounds crazy and convoluted. Before I used to think that as well when I heard other artists do it. But I think the great thing is, what people have mentioned, is you do preserve your sketch, and it's kind of nice. It's longer, but there's something nice about doing it this way as well. It's not a process I always do, but in some cases I do. I also keep tracing paper on this just because it's just regular pencil. It does smudge when you're drawing on the other sides of things, and it happened in my past sketchbooks, so hence why I do that. I'm also particularly proud of this Batman sketch. This was the first time I actually committed to attempting to draw Batman, and like I mentioned 2 years ago, I was very horrible at drawing men, and anatomy I was very not good at all. I would not be able to figure out drawing all these muscles. It would just be, just square abs sort of thing. But I know it's nowhere near as great as somebody like David Finch, all the great artists that draw Batman, but it's just humble progress for myself, I guess, that makes me kind of proud of this. So it's just self-progress is always great to assess and see in your own work. And I do recommend it for others to just be proud of your own personal progress the most. And that's kind of what a lot of these sketches in here really make me feel. Normally. Now here were just some studies of different media. One like failed attempt with some weird scrap gray paper where I was trying to do that like mid-tone gray, but this is much darker and a weird texture. I think I might have even used the wrong side, so I tried to use pencil crayon on that. Wasn't too happy with it. But the watercolor ones I actually really liked. Again, these are all like reference from Pexel's site. It's usually what I do for the most part, other than like sometimes I'll Google bodybuilders because I know artists have recommended that, or comic artists have, for learning how to draw more bulkier Hulk-like characters. But yeah, but these are just normal people, but they look fantastic. So kudos to them for them. Yeah, so some quick studies of cityscapes, doing like some quick washes. Semi-okay with them. I think it's just because the paper got ruined here and it just didn't look as great that I just wasn't 100% happy with this. But I did kind of like this wash one too, even though it was like a bit messy and didn't blend as well as I had hoped. Here are just some quick thumbnail roughs. They're really pale blue, so it's not really going to show up. Anyway, it was just like sketches for a competition I did, and it's all like acrylic paintings. I'll just flash that on the screen what those look like. But anyway, I'll move on because there's not really much to see. This was once again another comic page. This time I actually did one more themed to my own experience of going to the art store and, you know, just wanted to buy one more thing. I also, for the first time, attempted hand lettering. I actually glued these bubbles down separately. So yeah, I'm sure anybody who knows me and knows my handwriting is like chicken scratch, but yeah, I didn't actually know that originally comic books were, you know, there was like specifically hand and like letterers. I think that's what the title was called. So, you know, for fun, I decided to kind of stick it in since I wasn't gonna do this digitally, as usually when I sometimes do a more finished comic book page, I typically just leave the bubble and the text for digital, so it's like super neat and clean. But yeah, that was what this one was at. I really enjoyed, again, the purple and the yellow wash. So after I was finally finished my acrylic painting, I was overjoyed to go back to watercolor, just because acrylic painting is a lot messier for myself. So yeah, I just like watercolors because they're just very easy. You just grab them and, you know, they're always off to the side for me somewhere. I think they're on my other desk, so they're just not that far away. Yeah, I was really happy with the results of the way this turned out. Like I said, this paper is just like, sometimes it really surprises me as to just how beautiful the water and the watercolor just like behaves on it. It's just, yeah, I wish I could just like recreate this 100 times. Maybe I'll attempt to see if I can make it like a postcard size or something, print. And yeah, so that's for the pretty sunset orangey vibes. And I guess that continues on here because I found a Pexels image that kind of did have that kind of vintage vibe to it. The composition of the actual photo was really cool and looked a lot better. The guy and the girl were like right next to each other. But originally I just wanted to draw the guy, and then I ended up drawing the girl, and obviously obligatory palm leaves that I added in as I seriously enjoy drawing. I think it's just because like I love the tropics, so that might also be a reason why I always draw palm leaves. So to continue on the theme with palm leaves, I did these sort of standalone images with, I guess, the future idea of maybe stickers in mind. Also, this was the point where my 010 liner brush died, and I switched to practicing with a size 1 brush, same brand of Royal Langdon, I believe. Yeah, and just some doodling and stuff, not really anything like coherent, I guess you could say. Just didn't have any inspiration for what to draw, but yeah. Then here we have some watercolor references from photos from Pexels, I believe. Just wanted to do some more practice without any line art and just straight up watercolor, which yeah, this was a lot of fun. I guess they weren't the most contrasting images ever, so maybe they weren't the best ones to practice with, but it was still fun painting them. I enjoy the colors. I guess an example of like me just really wanting to do the line art and not really really perfecting the anatomy before I threw in line art. So, I mean, it's a sketchbook, right? You just want to get your ideas out regardless of how bad it looks. Moving on to more awful, weird sketches where I guess you could just say they were failed experiments. I don't want to even like come up close because like the face and everything just turned really weird, and I couldn't save it, so I kind of gave up. I didn't even throw a sticky on it just because some parts I did like the way it turned out with the blue and whatever, but the rest, oof, yeah. Moving on to something better, though, was when I got my new fountain pen ink. So I bought this cheap, nice fountain pen in Montreal, but the ink was gray and also not waterproof. I mean, I know how to say black in French, it's noir, but for some reason I got the gray ink, which says grise. Why I did that, I have no idea. Also, I know I'm probably pronouncing the gray in French wrong, but yeah, I don't know if you pronounce the S or not. I haven't double checked, so yeah. So yeah, I did a test run with the ink to really see if it's waterproof, you know, like testing watercolor on top of it. And it actually is. It's the carbon platinum black, I believe, or platinum carbon black ink. So yeah, that one's actually fairly impressive and nice to work with. It's not the blackest of black inks you'll ever get, but it's still nice that if you really want just waterproof ink for your fountain pen, it's really nice for that. So here's a more experimental comic idea I had for a page, just like in the sense that like transitioning without any rectangular panels. I think I got like very busy, but I liked certain elements, the way they turned out. It would be very cool to reuse that in, say, like some kind of final one. I also got really lazy and I didn't draw the character. It would make sense here because it's supposed to be a shadow, and I wasn't really sure which part then at one point to make black and white, so I just left this like weird outline. So yeah, that was like a fun little experimentation. Yeah. So here was where I got really fed up with the bulk of the sketchbook. It's like, because you can't even really lay it flat at all, which makes even presenting any of this very frustrating. I have to constantly hold it, and probably you can just constantly hear me doing this. It's like, I don't really know if it would count as ASMR, just really annoying. Yeah, so I just ended up sticking another image on top that it was kind of like a rough little watercolor image I did of I guess attempting to draw Barbara Gordon, but then it turned out like a really young version of her, because, you know, I did the purple and yellow, and it was like weird. I wasn't really sure where I was going with this, but yeah. I just was kind of happy with the way that I did like the freckly face and the hair and everything, but yeah. So for this one, I had gone out for the second time with Urban Sketchers to draw in a park, but this day was very cold, so I only managed to last 45 minutes drawing outside, and I kind of like ran into a cafe to warm up and get some lunch and coffee, and through the sliding doors a pigeon managed to get in, so it was kind of eyeing my lunch the entire time, so that was a fun little experience. It was also like flying around. There was like multiple tables and stuff, so it was just kind of going around, you know, begging for crumbs from everybody there. It was a pretty entertaining experience, so I thought I'd illustrate it. Also, I like the way how much puffier I drew my jacket when it's actually not as puffy as that, but yeah, fun illustrated version. So yeah, I continued on the pigeon theme because I was fed up with the sketchbook. I was once again rebelling from using this side at all for any kind of sketching. And for this one I just did some watercolor and inks, and I kind of like the way it turned out. Very simple but fun. Yeah. And then once again, pigeon theme, except this time it was acrylic wash painting. I even filmed myself painting this too, so that was interesting. This was also, I managed to achieve like much nicer lines than I usually do by using a rigger brush. It's very long, so I originally bought it for doing ink line art, but I thought it was too long to be able to get the details I wanted. But for this kind of stuff, for paint and thicker mediums, it actually worked out really nicely. So yeah, I'm quite proud of this. It's a cute little pigeon sort of thing, and a fun little background thing. Just rough sketch, you know, just doing whatever, mostly super burnt out, just, you know, because there were still a couple of pages left and I was grumbling about that. Yeah, and, you know, just filling it up as much as possible with just whatever sketches, and then I decided to actually do some more experimentation and shockingly paint and draw on this side. Something at least half a decent idea, I guess, but it was just the idea of wanting to draw kind of galaxy with inks, and it was on wet. I made the whole page wet and then I dripped the ink, so that really produces a very cool effect when you do that. So I'd recommend the acrylic inks. The Liquitex acrylic inks are a lot of fun to use. They're really nice. Not the most opaque ink you'll, I guess, ever use, but it's still really nice. I like it, and plus I really like the fact that it has eyedroppers, because I can't remember if the PH Martins or the other brands, if they do have the ink droppers. So yeah, and this is basically the last page, or the last page I worked on, because I totally cheated and just couldn't take it anymore and switched to the new sketchbook I had. It's just, the new one is just basically a basic Kansan Mixed Media XL one, just because I got really frustrated and annoyed with this paper, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go cheap spiral bound. It's fine, it's just a sketchbook. I know some people really do enjoy quality, and I will say that this paper, it was very nice to work with, aside from the fact that in this book it was very bulky. So I believe there's like a Strathmore mixed media type of sketchbook that's also soft cover. I have no idea how that one behaves. I have seen artists that make entire like artworks in them, and for her, I think when I saw her sketchbook tours, it did not look like it was bulked up, and none of hers did, because I think she constantly works in them. So perhaps that one might be a better alternative, and maybe in the future I'll give that one a go, because yeah, I like soft cover isn't always a bad thing, but I think it's just like the problem with it is it just doesn't hold its form. Like you could tell the way that it's like warping, it's not even straight anymore, which is I don't know if that means I should probably store it flat or something, which I'm gonna do just so it like maintains, but yeah, I don't want to wreck anything. So yeah, that was the tour. I really hope you enjoyed.